Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another exciting podcast interview. Today, I have Joe Kiriakosa. He's the VP and General Manager of Polk Automotive Solutions, and we're going to talk about what S&P Global Mobility is doing to help dealers in these challenging retail headwinds that we're seeing. We're going to talk about inventory. We're going to talk about EVs. And most importantly, we're going to talk about this growing trend of dealers investing in their first-party data. Joe, welcome to the show.
Brian, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity and looking forward to this. My first time doing this with you. Very excited.
Come on, let's talk about it. So, depending on who you talk to, dealers are in different pain points. Toyota dealers are feeling very different about the business, says compared to a Stellantis dealer. EVs, inventory levels, changes in consumer shopping behavior, affordability. There's a lot to talk about because your data sets within S&P Global Mobility really covers a wide gamut of consumer behavior. So at a very high level, but before we get into the topics, for a dealer who's not sure what is encompassed in S&P Global Mobility and how Polk fits into that, give us a little high level summary so dealers know the A team of products that you have.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And I think the way that we like to think about the Polk portfolio is basically like a data stack that a dealer can sort of look at as apps that they can kind of plug into their universe of tools. So it starts with something we call market impact, which is just a way to look at their current market, their DMA, their zip code, and go, all right, who's winning, who's losing, where are my customers going, what were the sales trajectory for trucks last week versus a year ago last week. You name the query, it's built into our market impact tool. So that's sort of like the stage setter, right? Like it's like, help me understand every day what is happening in my market and how to, historic trends, maybe forecast what's going to happen in the future. What do inventory trends look like across different dealers, different regions? So that's a stage setter. From there, we like to think of you plan your business around that market impact tool. Then you've got to make decisions and take action. So the decision tools really start with what we call our Polk Auto Direct platform, which is kind of an extension of that market impact tool, which is, okay, I've got all this information about my market. So what? What do I do about it, right? And what the Polk Auto Direct tool allows you to do is say, okay, the data and market impact said that there's a ton of trucks on lots in these markets. Maybe I need to incentivize them. Maybe I need to send a marketing campaign to these discrete groups. With Polk audiences within that platform, you can go in and select, hey, I want to reach people who are in market for a truck in a specific market in the Twin Cities or whatever. And then you go from there and you can deploy campaigns. You can either send them a direct mail piece just by pulling down a list. You can go hit them on Facebook, right, and Instagram through those campaigns. So right now we've built it around those two channels because number one, they're the most common, and number two, they provide the most reach and scale to get in front of, hey, I need a discrete 1,000 people that I'm trying to get to.
Yes.
So you look at that as market impact. Now you take action through Polk Auto Direct. Polk Auto Direct, by the way, also will tell you what's the sales trajectory of those audiences you bought. So you'll be able to see right in the dashboard, hey, those people bought cars at this rate, and they bought them from these dealerships. You know how many lost opportunities you had. You also know how many wins you had. So that's kind of the first few steps. Beyond that, we have the ability to then ingest your first party data to be able to make sense of your own customer sets and help you just more clearly define them, right? First, by just cleansing the data. So we do a really good job of data hygiene. Does this person still have the car? Did they move? Do they move to another state, another country, whatever, right? At the end of the day, let's cleanse the data and make sure the 10,000 records you have, that you're not wasting 3,000 outreach of, because 3,000 of them are no longer relevant to your database. We then take, the clean data and we append a bunch of other attributes to it. It's, these people have these demographics, these credit scores, this type of that they're loyal to Ford or Toyota or whatever brand. So you start to think about all the attributes that we can then place on top of it. And then there's over 300, by the way, but we don't need to do all of them. It's like, what's your focus area? And that allows you to then, again, continue to do outreach to improve your connection to those people and improve your take rate against retaining your customers. So again, when you think about our solutions, there are things that you can essentially, they're data as a service tools that you can essentially subscribe to and implement into your strategy. And we have, people that'll work hand in hand with you to help onboard those things.
The timing of the tech stack, as you mentioned, of consumer data around car ownership, shopping, affordability, buying power. This is so important. For a recent large dealer group I work with, and of course we worked with your team on this, 40% of the DMS records, which indicated the consumer bought a car, the consumer no longer owned.
Right.
Now, when you think about 1,000 or 10,000, but we were dealing with over 2 million data records. So when you think of what 40% looks like as potential direct mail waste or wasted modeling and projections, it's just amazing. Data hygiene is a big piece. And as more dealers are investing in CDPs, customer data platforms, they're going to need a data hygiene partner. And it's amazing to see, almost like a perfect storm for Polk and S&P Global Mobility, how your data sets, your business intelligence tools can really help guide a dealer to better manage their first party data. And I love the fact that you basically have audiences on demand, right? Audiences as a service to be able to pull in customers that are actively shopping for or likely to buy a truck or an EV. And those lists dealers don't have access to themselves, and they need a trusted partner. So when we think about EVs, let's talk about that. We just had a recent election. The previous administration had some pretty strong EV mandates. President-elect Trump has kind of indicated that maybe these aggressive mandates before infrastructure is ready or demand may have been a little ahead of their skis. What are you seeing, from inventory on the ground, incentives in play, sell rates, take-up rates on EVs? If you were talking to a dealer who's sitting on EVs and being expected to take more EVs, what would you be telling them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very it's really unpredictable right now what's going to happen with EVs. I think we had a major push in 2023 by the administration that is currently in office that that delivered on the Inflation Reduction Act, which is driven by adoption of electrification and clean energy, right? And then from there, you've got incentives, right? Incentives, $7,500 incentives on new EV sales. Like all the sort of stars were aligned for the consumer to go, hey, this makes total sense to me. But I think the biggest challenge that the industry has seen is that EVs are not this huge inflection point that the manufacturers or the government thought it would be to a consumer. Because at the end of the day, it's still four wheels and a steering wheel, and it does the same things. The operational parts of it are different, and some of the experience is different in terms of not going to a gas station or having oil changes and things like that, which are advantages if, as a consumer, you see it that way, right? So I've talked about this a few times, but like there are people that were likening the adoption of EVs to going from a flip phone to a smartphone, right?
Right.
That's a step function change in experience, right?
That's for sure.
Consumers just said, I have to have that. But that's not what they're saying about EVs.
That's right.
And I think what's going to change with the administration change is that I don't think, look, I don't think, and this is my personal opinion, I don't think Trump ditches the idea of EV adoption, or just, he's also got Elon Musk very closely aligned
Right.
to his program and his campaign, and is going to be in some capacity involved, it sounds like. But I think it starts to just do things like, you know, rewrite some of the rules for tailpipe emissions, which was a big factor in this administration. And it's going to sort of pull back some of the pressure that this administration was putting on OEMs for EV production goals, and putting markers in the sand for when there was going to be a full sort of transition to EVs. So I think it's going to be more, in this administration, it'll be more market-led versus policy-driven, right?
Got it.
And I think that, and that's what our analysts are saying, and that's what, our team has been, sort of forecasting and foreshadowing. Now, obviously, things are going to really be in effect come January in terms of how this administration approaches the industry. Are they going to roll back the incentives that have put out there? I don't know. I mean, like, I think there's benefit to it. There are reasons that they're effective in some ways. I think the most challenging part of those incentives is that they're confusing, right? So if we can make them less confusing, then a consumer goes, hey, $7,500, yeah, I'll take that right now. It's like the Cash for Clunkers program back in the day was super easy.
That's
I can
right.
scrap my car and get a bunch of money.
Everyone jumped in on that.
Right. So make it easy, I think, is the message I would have for the administration. It might be also harder for China and other overseas auto manufacturers to penetrate this market with their EVs. That's another potential policy-driven, government-driven change that is on the horizon, as well as manufacturing in Mexico and other places that might incur some tariffs that weren't originally expected. So there's a lot that can change. I don't know that it's going to happen like so dramatically so fast, but you never know.
Yes. That's the great thing about the auto business. The entrepreneurs who are running dealerships are used to changing on a dime when they have to. And let's talk about that. Inventory levels are, rising. Affordability is really key. How is your organization helping dealers identify ways to move their inventory or to present their vehicles in a way that gives consumers confidence that they can afford that next upgrade or time to swap out to a different vehicle?
Yeah, I mean, I think, for what the data that we're reporting on a regular basis is helpful. And that's just like public data that we're putting out there, which is, the top 50 DMAs added 750,000 units versus last year. And the days supply, is about 90 days, and EVs have the longest days supply. So we went from a market, let's say a little more than a year ago, where we're going, I don't know if I have enough to go around. I've got to figure out how to get more vehicles, to the very opposite, which, again, like if you talk to some of our analysts, and they're pretty sharp, they all kind of said, well, if I know OEMs are going to go back to their old bad habits. So now we're kind of back to like incentivization of vehicles, heavier incentives, and how we're guiding our customers in that respect, especially the dealers, is look, like you said, we have audiences on demand. I think the goal should be, number one, protect your base, right? Make sure the customers you have that are in market, which we can flag and score, everybody that you have, make sure you're talking to them and you're getting in front of them so you don't lose them, right? Like, you've got to protect your base. And the unfortunate reality is dealer loyalty is lower than anybody thinks. Whenever we say it, it's about 25 to 30% of people return to the same dealership when they buy another car. Like, that's just, it's sad in some ways. Like, it's like, you got to have a relationship with people that keeps you coming back. OEM loyalty is like 50+%, but the specific dealer, it's super, it's sporadic. So like, protect the base. Like, there's more data than ever to do that better, right? Like, that's the first thing we advise people to do. And that comes with hygiene. It comes with enrichment. The second thing is to, you've got to do outreach, right? You got to go find people you don't have to get that other, that other 70+% of people that may be coming from another store. So use audiences that are targeted so that you're not wasting money on just generic geographic
spray and pray. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're saying, all right, I've got 8,000 people in this audience segment that are in market for EVs, and and we know that. So that's eliminates waste, drives sales immediately. And then I think the third thing is use incentives wisely, right? Let the data inform your incentives rather than just blanketing the market with incentives. Because again, we're smarter than we ever have been in terms of data. Like there's more data than we have time to absorb, but let's use it smartly where it says, okay, these people, they were going to buy from you anyway. Like you don't need to give them 2,000 on the hood, but here's a bunch of people that if you give them, you can kind of turn the dial up or down. If you give them, and our data will help inform that, $2,000, you're going to flip them from a Toyota to a Honda, right? Those are the types of insights and analytics that we're helping dealer groups and dealers with. And we work with a lot of the agencies as well to help kind of craft that marketing strategy so that it's just finely tuned and it has a true ROI attached to it, to sales, not to, VDPs or new searches on Google or whatever sort of vanity metrics that tend to be out there floating around.
When you talk about retention, one thing I do know that dealers who take that fact on retention rates seriously and who've been building their customer data platforms, especially dealer groups that have multiple brands,
Yep.
Are really winning the retention game. The defection rates are slowing because when you know what cars are in the consumer's home, when you can communicate them with a certain degree of accuracy, they're going to open those emails. I mean, I still get letters, right, from dealers on cars I sold 5-6 years ago, and I laugh and I'm like, they don't care about me. They're not doing any data hygiene. But the dealers that are using Polk for vehicle ownership verification, for change of address, for a pending missing data in the contact record, what we're finding, at least for the dealer groups I'm working with on CDP projects, revenue can really grow again because you're putting your marketing dollars to real opportunities, not putting marketing dollars to ghosts. Because we've all got those service reminders on cars that we no longer own. We've all received those letters. Hey, we want to buy your car, of cars that you already traded in with the same dealer. And yet we chuckle and say, ha ha, man, what a waste. But this is a multi-million-dollar problem. And that gives consumers the feeling that the dealer really doesn't know who they are, care about them enough to get the data right. And so I think, one of the themes at the Modern Retailing Conference that I'm sure your team who's attending is going to be really busy talking with dealers is how could you, through secure APIs, be keeping their data records up to date with ownership data, with in-market shopping score data, with appending and enhancing data, especially when email addresses bounce or when the mobile phone number is missing in the DMS record. All of these things really have a huge impact. What would you say for a dealer who's looking for a data hygiene partner, right? They maybe have looked into CDPs, but the CDP company may not have a robust data hygiene process, or they may not talk about specifically what they're doing. Why would you make the case you're the ideal partner for dealers who want to keep their customer first-party data up to date?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason that we're the ideal partner is just because of the completeness of the data that we have, right? Like we have a view of the entire industry, of every consumer and every vehicle they've ever owned, and for that matter, right? So 30, 40 years, going back 30, 40 years of a household's, habitual buying of Toyota or whatever, right? Like it starts to help you really segment your universe much better. So, and look, we were working with customers on data hygiene before CDPs were a thing, right? So, traditional database appends, like totally fine. Like we still do it. We can do it. A lot of customers still want to operate that way. But as the adoption curve grows with companies in the market, we've partnered with all the key players in order to be very accessible and very integrated just across the ecosystem, so that there's no big step change to how you work with us. Like if you tomorrow say, hey, we've got Orbi now as our CDP partner, great. Like we work with Orbi, we have a contract in place, and know a tool very well. Like we're good. So we bring not only the completeness of the data, and the full breadth of information about those households, hundreds of attributes, but we have flexibility. Like our goal is to just be where you are as the customer, right? And APIs you talked about, that's something that, again, like we went out and asked our customers, what do you need from us to be a better partner? And one of the top things that was brought up was, hey, we would love to be able to ping through APIs. Great. We've developed that now. So you want to ping to our database for hygiene, for scoring, that is now possible through API calls. And we listen to our customers very simply. But again, like for us, the number one reason to work with us is data. The number two reason is service and the intelligence and the people that we have that make that data come to life. We try to be very simple in our approach to the market and not be everything to everybody. And we're just really good at data.
And so when we look at summarizing these opportunities for dealers, I look at it in three buckets. One, dealers who are looking for insights into their market. How are things trending, right? You have a whole data analytics platform for them. Dealers who need to move metal right now can go to your self-serve portal, purchase audiences of, hey, people who are in market for a truck, people who are looking for an EV, people who are looking for hybrids, right? So,
and by the way, in that platform, we also have people who want certain payment levels, right? Have a certain budget on payments. Like we have a history of all that information. We bucket you into your $400 to $500 is your sweet spot or whatever it is. So that, and we also have service, by the way, in market for service inside of that, which is a big dealer product for us. About 8 different services like tires, brakes, oil, etc., that you can pinpoint people who are in your market that are in market for that service.
Love that.
So again, like everybody wants more money through the service lane, like we're giving it to them. And by the way, we also have a solution that allows you to take in recall flags, to know like which vehicles are out there that are on recall, that you can pull that person into the service bay, do the recall, and get them to do more.
And I just want to remind dealers who may be defensive when I said that a large dealer group, a well-operated large dealer group, had 40% of their DMS records, corrected, that those customers no longer own those vehicles. I want to just be very clear. This is not the exception. It's really more the rule. And by understanding that your DMS data is not accurate, it is indicative of why maybe your service revenue or growth of service revenue has not been able to be accelerated, like hitting the gas pedal. But you can do that when you clean your data, market to who still owns the vehicles, know what that base is, and then supplement those lists with the audiences that Joe's been talking about. And then the third bucket, this is going to be the growing bucket. Right now, I would say larger dealer groups have started the CDP push, but now since companies like Fullpath and Orbi and others, Full Throttle and Client Command, other CDP platforms that are now on market, the third way in that Polk can help, right, is in integrated APIs into data hygiene. And I want dealers to understand what this means. It means that being able to push into Polk, hey, we just tried to email these customers, their email bounced, give me a new one. Or, hey, we're going to do a really high quality but expensive direct mail piece. Before I drop $4 a piece, let me bounce these people to make sure they still own these vehicles. Um, Having automated data processing capabilities in real time or near real time is going to be really, I think, the way of the future. I want to remind dealers we have to move away from batch thinking. Oh, at the end of the month, I'm going to send a list. More and more dealer groups are realizing real time marketing, real time activation. Someone's back on your website, you know who they are, you market to them, or you call them. You don't wait to the end of the month. You don't cut a list and give it to somebody. You are dynamically feeding social media, direct mail, email, or call center campaigns through real-time data. And of course, the team at S&P Global Mobility and the team at Polk, look, they're working with the largest tech companies in the world to provide data integration. This is no stress to your ecosystem, Joe, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've evolved a lot. I mean, look, we've been in the camp historically of being a batch driven,
Yeah.
kind of old school database company, but we've graduated. We're a tech company in every way, that's driven by data, right? So from our perspective, again, like we want to be where our customers are, and as our customers adopt more tools and more solutions to help streamline their businesses, we've got to be there. I mean, at the OEM level, if you think about some of the advancements we've made, OEMs from a tool adoption perspective are much more advanced,
Yes.
and we've been able to really keep pace with major CDP installations and things of that nature that that weren't there before, or very complex measurement, MTA, multi-touch attribution type of things that we're being asked to help solve for, and we're doing it. So we've really come a long way as well as an organization to be more tech forward and to just be like the intelligence layer inside everything you're doing.
Mm. That's such a great reminder. And, there are still some dealers like, oh, Polk data, it's 60 days or 90 days. Oh, no, you're thinking about some printed report or some publication that was coming out. I mean, when you think of the real time data feeds that I know you're providing, and especially on vehicle ownership, which is the huge, huge bogey that people don't even want to talk about, how much miscommunication in marketing and direct mail because people really don't know if the consumer still owns a vehicle is a big thing. And that's why at the Modern Retailing Conference, the team at Polk and S&P Global Mobility is one of our top sponsors because they are that business intelligence, that data platform that's powering modern retail solutions. And we're going to be talking about data hygiene, data activation, identity resolution, APIs, and the new business use cases for dealers who want to do more with their first party data. And I got some amazing data to show on the opening session. I get to open up the conference and share some of the new insights that we've been having with, first party data management. There hasn't been many real, believable, and authentic first party data use cases published on CDPs. Well, we're going to start surfacing them at the conference, and then a lot more in 2025. Joe, you mentioned the Polk Auto Direct platform where a dealer who's struggling right now could download a list of, let's just say, 2,000 or 3,000 people that meet a certain category. You mentioned service applications or new or used car applications or specific payment shopper. Um, where would they go to be able to log in and see how many people are in their PMA? What's the website address? Where would they go?
Yeah, it's just polkaautodirect.com, just like it sounds. And there are over 900 different segments and different types of segmentation. You can also combine them, right? You can take two or three. I want people who are in market for Cadillac, who have a credit rating over 700, who are in this DMA. I know there are 18,000 people that fit that description. So all of that is possible. You can do that right now without even buying anything. Right.
Right. But use the tool as a diagnostic opportunity.
Correct.
Wow. That's great news. Great news. Well, I want to thank your team for being a sponsor of Dealer Education. And of course, dealers who are looking to do more with their first party data, doing more with the rich data resources that are available through Polk, is a reason why you should come out to the Modern Retailing Conference. Now, just a few days away. And most importantly, if you can't make the conference, purchase a virtual ticket, because all of the panels and keynote presentations and fireside chats will be recorded and available online. So you can go to modernretailingconference.com, buy a ticket to attend live, or buy a virtual ticket. And make sure you listen to all of the interviews that I did in this podcast series leading up to the Modern Retailing Conference in Palm Beach, because not everyone can get out to the conference, but you should be understanding what these technology leaders are doing to help dealers sell more cars in a digital age. Joe, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for sharing your insights. And if somebody wanted to know more just about the Polk, complete portfolio, what's the best website for them to go to?
Just search S&P Global Mobility, and it'll take you right to our website, and there's a slew of information there. Or anybody's welcome to reach out to me at joe.kiriakoza@spglobal.com. Last name is Kyriakoza. Yeah, happy to help. And one other thing I wanted to mention, Brian, is one of our partner companies that's a part of the S&P Global Mobility family is Automotive Mastermind, who's also going to be a big part of your conference. And I think Matt Leone is speaking at one of the sessions. But Automotive Mastermind is also a very close partner to the Polk business, in that a lot of our applications they can bring to you as a dealer. So if they're providing that service layer that they do to many thousands of dealers that they work with, whether it's equity mining or marketing or data services, a lot of those applications that I talked about can be kind of pulled into the same, the same breadth of things that Mastermind is doing for you already. We partner closely with them to make sure everything kind of works under one umbrella, S&P umbrella.
Yes, and in fact, Tom Moore, the CEO of the Morgan Auto Group, and Aaron Baldwin from Automotive Masterminds will be on a panel with me on the main stage talking about Morgan's aggressive CDP vision. And a lot of the success has been powered by this partnership, as you mentioned, with Automotive Masterminds and S&P Global Mobility. So thank you for that reminder, because both teams will be there at the show, and it gives you more opportunities to reimagine what your retailing infrastructure and tech stack could look like. Well, Joe, thanks again. And I want to thank everyone who's listening in, who's supporting this podcast. Make sure you share this podcast interview with your colleagues. Dealers need to understand that if they don't have a data hygiene strategy, if they don't have an audience as a service strategy, their marketing dollars are being wasted and revenue opportunities are being left on the table. Don't allow that to happen to your dealership. Thanks for listening in, and I hope you'll join me once again on a future podcast interview with automotive technology leaders. Help dealers sell more cars in the digital age. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.